Hi everybody, this is Deb and Jackie, and today in our Take 10 we're going to be talking about our first look at Fall High Point Market. So, welcome to First Look at Fall High Point Market. Jackie and I are just back from a week in High Point and our feet still hurt. Trust me. It was a great time, saw lots of new introductions and new trends, and we're going to dive right in and talk to you about what we saw. So we've kind of put together our top 20 list, if you will. There was a lot of things happening in markets, so we couldn't go with the top 10. We had to go with the top 20. So here they are, and we'll give you some examples as we go through. Dark and Sexy, It's Brutal, Come Out to Play, Fashion Comes Home, Walternative Number 2, The Organic Mix, Morphine Mid-Century, Lucite Everywhere, Paint It Black, Confident Color. Those two are sort of our color stories, along with All That Glitters, the whole menswear, sort of haute haberdashery, Concrete, new takes on upholstery, patterns and on furniture, metals of the moment, fabulous finishes, horse country, and furs, feathers, and hardware. So let's kind of go through some of these and see what we've got. So Dark and Sexy. Dark and Sexy is really about all of this sort of high contrast, smoky, somewhat moody, little bit masculine, with shine and pops of metallics in it. Great example is this black lacquered entryway. This is Theodore Alexander, and it really sort of said that sort of English country gentleman, and notice the sort of green teal walls. I put this color palette from Design Seeds in it because what we did see happening is with this sort of dark and smoky thing is that the greens were coming into play, and they were much on the bluer side and darker versus those sort of chartreusey yellow greens, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. The other thing that kind of goes with this whole dark and sexy mood is dark tropicals and dark botanicals. This is Bernhardt, and as you can see, not only do we have the fur and the velvet, but dark brown, cocoa brown. We've seen the espresso and all that happening in furniture for a long time. That finish has gone away. Now it's this brown is starting to reappear in textiles. Again, Bernhardt.
I'm on now again. It's like almost a charcoal, like a burnt ember brown. And I think also, Deb, important to watch in all of these slides is the huge influence right now of Art Deco.
Totally.
All of the designs.
So here, and we'll talk a bit more about this, but exotic woods at Bernhardt, but notice the polished chrome inlay on the table, and then the chairs in the polished chrome. It was gorgeous. It was stunning. And then against the dark walls.
And the mixing of all of the different materials, I thought I've seen more innovation in this market than ever, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, who would think, chrome and wood?
Exactly.
The table is stunning. The whole collection is just stunning.
Right. So It's Brutal is kind of a little, deviation, if you will, in direction from this dark and sexy. So the brutalism is all about strength and rawness, somewhat what we think of as common materials, but it's all about sort of, a frank expression of, masculine and materials. I mean, they're not finished, they're not faux, they're not lacquered. And we started to see this. This is Meld, and these are brutal, inspired wall panels on the back, but notice, blocks of furniture with a metal base. Everything was solid. Even in some of the lighter weight, everything felt like solid.
Heavy, weighty. I mean, everything has a ton of weight and substance, and I think that coming off of a period of recession and this sort of light, airy mood that we've had, now going into, more a period of hopefully wealth for a lot of people and gaining, you know, back some of their wealth. They want this like solidity and heaviness.
So these are some great examples from Arteriors. And notice the barbed wire mirror and then this reclaimed block with the iron tabletop riveted into it. But what really struck me most about this, and you'll see some other photos in some of our other trends, is this is Barry Dixon for Arteriors. Now, for those of you that are on the call and know Barry from social media or from his work, this does not look like Barry Dixon.
No,
so
this is like a total departure.
Props for him for really thinking out of the box and moving his brand forward in a completely different direction. Wait till you see some of the other things. So, but this is definitely pretty crazy. Here again.
It's very heady. It's very, don't you think, Deb? It's very intellectual, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of meaning, I think, behind some of this stuff.
And this sort of has that 70s vibe, which I love because, I mean, how many of us have had clients that wanted to paint their wood paneling and now it's coming back?
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
All those Midwestern basements, right?
There
now
you
you're
go.
in vogue.
Coquet did this whole sort of like, and note the color because we're going to talk about that again, but again, the sexy look. So, you know, get your paint colors out for blacks and charcoals going really deep. This is Curry and Company, again, mid-century modern with a bit of Art Deco influence, so probably more Art Deco than mid-century modern. So the third one is Come Out to Play, which is sort of a with this whole sort of like work-play balance and lifestyle and creating a lifestyle brand. There were lots of people, there were several manufacturers that were doing either playful design or were actually creating play as a product category. And there you have, off of Instagram, Jackie, hello, playing ping pong at B Pila, and actually it was a plexiglass dining room table that turned into a ping pong table. It was awesome.
Even the paddles were plexiglass, and that thing, I've never played ping pong so well in my life. There was something about the plexiglass where the ball doesn't like shoot all the way across the room, and I could actually return it. I came back twice and played again. So
that was awesome. And then they do this swing.
Whole, like you said, it's bringing entertainment into the home. You have a dining room, no one eats in the dining room now. You put a pool table or a ping pong table or something else in it.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And then at Embella Home, we played shuffleboard, and which they have a whole line. They've got game tables and shuffleboards or Theodore Alexander. So it's this whole like chessboard, multitasking game boards. We saw things with hidden drawers that popped up. So watch for this category to become more important in home furnishings.
And you know, before we get into your next category, I just wanted to bring up in that category of, you know, playfulness in IMC, or not IMC, I'm sorry, IHFC building, the main building in High Point, in Inner Hall, which is the sort of curated, or what do you call it, Deb?
Yeah, it's a vetted hall.
It's a vetted, you know, floor. There were 2 vendors there selling ping pong tables and very high end. One was the B-Pillow, and the other one, I can't remember the name, Deb, but it was really like bespoke, you know, of those tables. And they also had a kitchen vendor in there. So I think when you go to High Point Market now, you're seeing sort of this embracing of all of these different avenues of design that we've never seen before.
Absolutely. It's not just upholstery, furniture, and case goods.
Right.
So big news at Market were the introduction of 4 fashion icons to their introductory offerings and product launches into the home furnishing market. And the first one was for Hooker, and it was Cynthia Rowley. And Cynthia Rowley, as you know, is known for her sort of exuberant prints and mixing. And this desk was lovely. And it was probably, you know, there's always 3 or 4 pieces at Market that everybody's drawn to and there's a buzz about, and this desk was one of them.
It was a home run. It was absolutely gorgeous, and you know, I love print, so seeing print now on furniture, just stunningly applied Really
Right.
great.
This is her bed set. She sort of did this sort of like different kind of lifestyle. So there was the sporty look, there was this glam look, and then there was more of a classic kind of look to it. I have to tell you the price points are really interesting. By the way, it's Cynthia Rowley for Hooker Furniture, which is somewhat of a kind of a definitely a departure for them. We don't think of Hooker as a fashion brand, but they did a nice job with it. Here's her twig mirror and mirror dresser. Seen a lot of mirror, you know, in the last 3 or 4 markets, but for Hooker, it was something new. And
And
then,
it literally was half the showroom, Deb.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's nice to see them commit so deeply because you really got to the flavor of the brand instead of just having like one room setting or whatever.
What did they
And
say,
she had quite a few.
110 or 120 pieces?
Yeah, a lot of furniture.
Yeah. And then her
All
sporty
beautiful.
look, which was this upholstered brass bed, because God knows if you didn't get the memo if you didn't have a piece
Yeah.
of brass in your in your showroom, for
Brass
sure.
or acrylic, whatever.
Fashion comes home. A second offering was Kate Spade, and she did a line for visual comfort for lighting. She did soft accessories and rugs at Jaipur, and EJ Victor, she did pieces, case goods, and upholstery. And it's the typical Kate Spade look, polka dotted desk, again, pattern
Mhm.
on furniture,
Very
you know.
clean lines, very sort of understated. I mean,
Here's her
and her
marble, yeah,
signature pattern. The marble rug
marbleized
really was
rug.
gorgeous, wasn't it?
That was my favorite. She does a
Yeah, I
large
like you.
floral too, but it was just, here's the large floral. It
Hmm.
sort of said grandma to me, but that's just
Yeah.
me. You know, button tufted curved sofa. Also, just as a nod to one of the other trends, notice how it's all about wall art and collaging and displaying, you know, pieces in a cohesive mix. The third one was Xander Rhodes for Christopher Guy, and it was just wall art, and it was 4 of her iconic textiles that have now she's done as original wall art, and Christopher Guy is repping her. There was a huge launch in New York just prior to High Point. There's Zandra. And
And for me, I thought, that was kind of I guess duck out of water moment
oh my
where
God, yeah.
you wouldn't think that her stuff would go with Christopher Guy because
No.
he's so polished and she's so kind of exuberant and out there, but it was a good mix, right?
Right. It was a good mix. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
look at her kind of stuff. It's kind of
yeah,
heavy-handed and,
awesome.
and
When you
childlike and
can't,
whatever.
yeah,
And he's just all about feminine or, you know, fine line and
right.
stuff. But, you know, again, I think it speaks to collaboration. They hit it off personally. They said, let's do something together, and took it from there, which is, you know, design entrepreneurship at its best, right? And then I just
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
throw this in. Serena and Lily, who's a longtime exhibitor, what they've sort of done the reverse, and looks like my slide didn't get moved over when I saved it, sorry. So they're known for their home furnishings and their fabrics and accent furniture, and now they introduced at market an apparel line, which was, you know, the reverse of it. The fifth trend is alternatives, what we're calling 2.0. If you've been on our Take 10s before, you know Jackie's spoken about what's happening with the wall art, and it's really everybody took it up a notch this market. It's not anymore about creating an accent wall, it's about creating a statement wall
So
in
absolutely.
lots of different ways.
And bigger, the bigger the better.
Absolutely. So here, this is Global Views on the left, and these are Murano glass pieces that they actually look like doorknobs or finials, and you literally screw them into the wall, which was kind of interesting. And then Christopher Guy on the right, you know, looks like a pen and ink illustration of 2 nudes, but actually when you get up close, it's a textile, and it's all sequined and embroidered. So it's an embroidered piece, which was really interesting. This is Bliss Studio. What can I say? Speaks for itself. I mean,
These were enormous, like 4 feet, circumference, huge florals. and just amazing.
Yeah, they were amazing. They will make a statement in your home. And then, you know, the whole idea that Jackie and I are forecasting starting to see wall upholstery. You know, that headboard is going to get extended in the bedroom or whatever room it is. This is MD International. This is their new bedding line. It's all alpaca, by the way, which at a really great price point. But then you can do these upholstered tiles, and it's priced per square foot, and you can put a variety of different fabrics. Do you remember how many? I can't.
They didn't have that many, but it was a nice, you know,
Yeah.
selection.
But again, an
this is
interesting.
certainly something that you also can, you know, take to heart and experiment with on your own, because they're just Velcroed to the wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's modular. And Deb, you just had a project that made it easy to get it in and out of a high-rise, right?
Yep. We just did a leather upholstered wall, but did it as panels, and also saw a lot of it in Paris in September.
Mm-hmm.
But again, textile pieces. These are textile pieces.
Yeah. Textiles is art, really great. And this was Florence Broadhurst.
Right. I'm sorry, Florence Broadhurst.
Yeah, for Celamit.
Yep.
Just a beautiful collection, embracing all of her iconic patterns and putting it on furniture, case goods, everything that they could. They did a really great job, we thought.
They did. And again, wall display, collaging, you know, it's the art of the display, how many, you know, it can be, you know, disparated pieces that become cohesive when you put them together, making that statement wall. This happens to be Tebow. Again, you know, great. I mean, not everybody can live with a whole room of that particular print, but it sure does make a statement behind a, you know, a couch or whatever. And then this is Detroit wallpaper, and I kind of, you know, wallpaper as art, if you will. They have a really great story. They do custom. Everything's digitally printed. There's lots of, each of these patterns has some sort of really interesting story, and they're particularly about revitalizing the city of Detroit. So look into them. They really do a nice job, and they'll custom design paper for you and your clients. And then of course there were a lot of, whether it was photography or original art or whatever that's out there. So if you come to High Point, you've got, whether you want to be traditional, photorealistic, whatever route you want to take, there is enough for you and when it comes to the wall.
Absolutely. And you know, the whole wall collage thing too, it's like you know, found objects mixed in with fine art, kids paint little drawings mixed in. It's all about, I think, telling a story, whereas, you know, we're coming off a few years of the giant canvas in one color, you know, with a dot or something in the center. I mean, art is really becoming much more meaningful again.
Mm-hmm. 6 is the organic mix, and this sort of embellishes all the things that are happening that are nature related, the rustic looks, a little bit of a take on some of the global themes, but much more, you know, natural, organic, rustic, chippy paint, sustainability. Again, this is Arteriors, and this is Barry Dixon. This is his new chair and his gold leaf stump.
Yeah, now, the stump is great. The chair,
I know, but I never ever would have thought, right, that he went this direction.
I think, you know, with living on his estate or farm or whatever his beautiful place is, and the barns and everything, I think that's where a lot of this is coming from.
Yeah, but I'm props to him, I got to tell you.
But you know, the man, I've always thought he's kind of a visionary, and I mean, he started the whole sort of nailhead movement, you know, with his Ottomans that he first did. So I take everything he does with some gravity. And think that, you know, this is the way things are going.
Absolutely. So this is True to Feather, and our group loved, and Jackie and I loved some of the pieces that were in it. So these are crystal pieces that are inlaid with, like, you know, wood moldings, egg and dart, shards of things, you know, dentals, tongue. It was just really wonderful. Plus they also had the crystal logs, which I think everybody, you know, was buying because they were awesome. So this whole, like,
you know, let me tell the story about these logs, and this is Tritter Feefer, by the way.
I'm sorry, I said
we
that
got it wrong. But Deb and I saw these not for the first time, but we saw them in big chunks like this last market at Bernhardt in a fireplace. And they were just thrown in there as, to look like logs. And we thought, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Where can we find these? We were hunting them out. That was everywhere at market. Everybody that went through that had the same idea or whatever, because that was the product of the moment, wasn't it?
It was. Everyone's like, find those crystals and figure out how we can make it ours.
Oh, yeah, but just an amazing, you know, I think it's a great lesson now as to the speed of how things are adopted in our marketplace now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just instantly explodes, and all of a sudden everybody is using the exact same material.
Yep, absolutely. So again, the whole, you know, here, these happen to be the conceptual drawings from Barry Dixon. So the whole idea of the horse mane from his farm. So it's a horsehair sconce for his new lighting line, and then he also the caterpillar and the metamorphosis, the chrysalis sconce that he did again for arterials, very, you know, in bronze, really lovely, small scale, but makes an impact. Christopher Guy, his sort of take, you know, with these, it sort of says Art Nouveau, it's kind of botanical, but, you know, his ode, if you will, to the organics and the mix of it, you know, this more literal takes with modern history and faux bois. We still saw a lot of faux bois at market. And then Curry and Company, they did this whole like collection of screens, lighting, table lamps, floor lamps, pendant lamps with oyster shells, reclaimed oyster shells, and this is one of the screens. They must have had maybe 20 pieces with oyster shells.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7, morphine mid-century. So one of the things that's happening in mid-century modern, particularly with the younger client, because that's who originally has, you know, gravitated toward that look, is that unless you're getting the real deal when you're purchasing mid-century furniture and restoring it or reupholstering it or whatever, most of the younger clientele is moving away from mid-century. They don't want the knockoff or the repo. They want the real thing if they're going to do mid-century. So there's a little bit of morphine. It's getting a little bit more Art Deco-y, a little bit more somewhat 50, 60, if you will. I don't want to say space age, Sputnik, but it is changing. You know, this is what they were calling a mid-century console, you know, but really it's kind of moving more toward Nordic modern. It's got some flavor of Danish modern, if you remember that from the 60s and 70s, than what we think of as mid-century modern. This is Julia Buckingham's new chair for global views. Again, the exposed wood arm, but it's got a little bit different silhouette. Caracol is showing this wire chair. This was one of their top sellers, the intertwined wire. So which has again a little bit different look than the typical wire Bertolia chair that you might think of. Or here, you know, for arterials, again, armed, you know, basic. Everybody had in last market had an armchair, walnut leg, you know, exposed arm. Here it's more of a slipper chair. It's more upholstered, and then you just have the exposed back. So it's morphing a bit.
And you know, so much fusion between styles, and you know, how can we take this from that and put them together to create something new?
Right. And then
we saw that in everything.
Not as boxy of the cushion in this chair. It's getting that little sort of rounded, tufted feel. Same with these chairs, more of a sinuous leg, if you will. And then, as I said, if you didn't get the memo about brass, hope to God you got the memo about lucite, because it was everywhere.
It's the product of the moment, literally. I think something coming on stronger.
So we've shown the chair before from Global Views. They went out with they're showing several new incarnations of it. Every manufacturer had a lucite leg as an option now on furniture, and not just accent furniture. You're seeing it on sofas, on chairs, on clubs, on benches. This is the Century lucite table on a brass base. It's a stunningly beautiful table.
And again, Art Deco all over this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's so prominent. I actually was watching Singing in the Rain yesterday, the old movie, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's a treasure trove of Art Deco design. So, and this was the winner, right, Deb?
Yeah.
Bed.
So they took their brass bed that was the winner 4 markets ago, and they melded it, married it with lucite. And by the way, if you have a client in the market for a bed and you think this is going to make a statement for her, you'll be surprised by the price point. It's actually not. It's the net on this is fair. I think is a value.
We were very surprised. Yeah. We were like, is that just for the canopy section or or the whole bed? So it was very reasonably priced for acrylic.
Right, exactly.
And then you have the brass bottom.
Bottom too, so you got the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
So then painted black with this whole sort of dark and sexy thing, lots of black painted furniture coming into play, whether it has a rustic finish to it, it looks like it's been burnt or smoky, whether it was in textiles, that charcoal is now becoming black. And that sort of brings us to some of the color stories that are out there. Lots of pinks and purples this market. As I mentioned, the greeners are getting a little bit more fresher and truer in saturation. It's Kelly greens, it's bottle greens, hunter greens, and then there's always a color story that is the hit of market, and this year it was orange.
They took orange to heart.
Yep. So this is Jamie Drake for Theodore Alexander, and we hinted at this in our last market report from spring when a softer version of this color scheme was done by Toby Fairley at CR Lane. Jamie Drake gave it his spin and put more intensity to it. And didn't you tell me this is like one of their hottest selling lines?
I heard from a very reliable source that it's selling like hotcakes in New York and New Jersey.
Yeah.
Particularly, but I think it's doing very well for them. And again, to me, I'm just seeing Art Deco everywhere.
Yeah.
Or look at the blue. The blues combined with the aubergines and the.
Right, and then this is on the right is Cynthia Raleigh, and that's her purple sofa, button Chesterfield in velvet. And then talking about greens, this is Kate Spade, and see with the pops of the green. This was at Coderas.
Black and white.
There's the orange, and there's this really like shamrock Kelly green sofa mixed with brass and golds. It works. It draws me in. I'm a fan of that. This is the Melange collection for Hooker. This is actually an orange lacquered crosshatch chest. Wesley Hall in leather. I usually don't like to have myself in it, but I couldn't crop this picture without it. But this also kind of speaks to foreshadowing of menswear because, this is Anne Gish and the whole houndstooth kind of thing, and she called me over because my jacket was made for that bed. Which is kind of funny. Again, Wesley Hall and their take on traditional with orange, a plate print, right? And then Bernhardt introduced a new line, or new sub-brand, a whole new division called Soho Living, and this is their Hermes wall, which was the entrance into the new showroom.
Yeah, it was really spectacular. Orange lacquer, just striking.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And then texture. Yep. It's really taking on, with trimmings coming back. It's all about the fringe. If you've been shopping this fall for yourself, you know that you got to have one accessory and or piece of apparel that has fringe on it. And that goes to say for home furnishings. These are low lies, and again, it also kind of fits into that sort of organic mix, chunky cable knits, lots of warm knits, fringing, raw edges, tasseling, you know, as you can see, just all kinds of, you know, it's like cozy, comfy, organic, fringy. Menswear is kind of goes from, you know, pinstripes and that corporate quote unquote suit look to kind of equestrian to Luxe Lodge. It's kind of going in a couple of different directions. This is Eastern accents, and for what they believe this is Barclay Batera.
Yeah.
And
you know, and the menswear is softening a bit because when we first saw it a few markets ago coming out, you know, it was pinstriping and men's suit woolens, and now they're taking on a more tactile look, but still with that total menswear vibe.
Yep. Yep, I love these chairs. They just sort of said, you know, bachelor pad with a cross hat X behind this club chair with this really interesting roll. It was a squared roll, not a, you know, typical tub roll. Again,
yeah, not an easy chair to upholster either, but great price points from them.
Oh my God, yes. And this is again Barry's New Light, a lamp taken from the whole idea of iron fencing masks. And so there was a lot of mesh, a lot of wire, a lot of architectural looks, you know, kind of the draftsman architects. Kind of, we saw a little bit of that in earlier markets, and now it's just coming on strong. Part of that is also lots of concrete, whether we've seen it in tiling as a finish. It was interesting, but it sort of has its own thing happening there because it was like everybody had concrete wall or floor or was using it in some way. There's concrete tables now at Curry. They had a concrete veneer on their metal pendant lamp.
And there was a lot of concrete coated lighting.
Yes.
Aiden Gray had a whole collection. I don't think we have a picture of that for you, but look it up on their website. But you'd never think of concrete as a lighting material, but they're coating aluminum or metal or something with it, as you would like a countertop or something, and makes for a really interesting texture.
Yep. It's smooth, cool to the touch.
Right.
Okay, so button tufting is pretty much peaked, or peaking, if you will, in our eyes. And so there, we were out to spot some of the new upholstery looks or new takes on upholstery. And I think channel quilting definitely starting.
It's the old tuck and roll, right?
Yeah, there you go. The old tuck and roll is right, but it look again, and it kind of speaks to that menswear thing, right? Car upholstery.
I think absolutely, and
yep. And you know, or even something as, you know, whether it was a detail. This is a huge wingback chair from Bruce Andrews, but this is the back of his chair where it was all this wonderful embroidery, you know, done in this cresting, or even here at Wesley Hall. Yes, it's nail heads, but we're doing tape with nail head in a contrast. I mean, we were just kind of all out there trying to find out what it was. And then, of course, we've already talked to you about the fact that we've seen upholstered case goods. This is Dransfield and Ross. This is a simple Parsons table, and it's been, notice the frayed edges and the pick sticking. It's been upholstered in Sombrella, so it's now indoor-outdoor.
Yeah, it's basically stapled together. Staples, which was, it's interesting, and it kind of like goes with the whole Barry Dixon raw materials, you know.
Yeah, kind of that brutalist. Yeah. Yeah, it was really kind of interesting. Also, if you're talking channels, but then we're starting to see piping, and then this poor picture. I know Jackie probably has a better one, but I apologize. But this was at Bernhardt, and it was a leather headboard, and the idea behind it was instead of having that deep tufted, put together cut and sewn look, they wanted it to have this sort of like lived in slip covered look. So it was like a loosely upholstered, if you will. It was like a cross between slip covering and upholstery in this headboard.
Yeah, it was kind of like wrapped over, and then the buttons were pulled through, but in
as you can
not
see
a haphazard way, but
yeah,
very slouchy, very just kind of like, I don't know, like you draped an old jacket over the back of the bed.
Yeah, it's like that worn-in leather, motorcycle jacket kind of feel or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see if that kind of look takes off. Also, some interesting details. We saw a lot of over padding, if you will, with quilting, top stitching. This is on the side of a chair in a sectional at Bernhardt. Or look at the back of this sectional that was added. This is from Nathan Anthony Furniture. Again, sort of a brutalist in nature, if you will, look. And then,
but I mean, what an interesting, way to deal with the back of a sofa. I mean, we always have those issues when you're putting sectionals and sofas out. So they are more detail and care is being given to addressing the back of pieces and sides of pieces. Every piece is a canvas now, not just your front view of your piece of furniture.
Right. And then part of it is, what product category can we reintroduce, because we kind of, got to reinvent ourselves every couple of markets. And that product category, this market, was day beds as a substitute for settees or love seats or even sofas. It was, the whole idea of the art of conversation, tete-a-tete. You can sit one way, sit people opposite each other, whether they were round, square, rectangular. It was all about the day bed.
And I think, too, this is a great category for if you have younger clients that are buying their first homes and need, more functionality in their rooms, or your older clients who are downsizing into a smaller place but still need room for guests, and you can incorporate day beds into other living situations where that they can transform into a bedroom.
Definitely.
I think that's why we're seeing a lot of those come on as well.
With the popularity of pattern and textiles and all over the place, it had to come to furniture and to case goods. And so, we talked about upholstered case goods. I think the next step is probably decoupage or relief pattern, and we'll show you some examples. This is French Heritage.
And digital printing on veneers as well.
Digital printing on veneers, which will be interesting to see. So this is a tabletop. These are both French Heritage.
These were absolutely stunning. I wish we could show them to you in person, because they were literally hand decoupaged and every tiny little piece cut out and applied beautifully.
This is Florence Broadhurst again for Celomat. Again, it's on everything. It's on screens. It's all about pattern mashups, if you will. But notice this is, again, Hooker, and this is a piece on it. We saw a foreshadowing with Ambella Home in their Cherry Blossom console last market.
Yeah. And this is something that Ambella did last market, too, with their Cherry Blossom settee, was that they're creating engineered patterns just specifically to fit perfectly and asymmetrically across furniture.
Yep, perfect.
So, and I think that all comes back to our advances in technology and this great technology that we have now with that's making these capabilities possible.
Absolutely.
Dye sublimation printing, everything.
Yeah, and so this is, and then, it's not only just printed or decoupaged on it. We're talking about adding relief and creating pattern. And then, so I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Merce Studio. Some of you know them from our conversations about them and other Take 10s. She started out doing 12 by 12 wood tiles that are digitally printed with these amazing designs. You can buy them and put them down, as insets in wood floors, powder room floors, a whole floor, however you'd like. She's moved into wallpaper, but what I loved were the decals that were stair risers. And being a window covering person, this fits on a wooden cornice like nobody's business, and you can pick or digitally pick any color. It was just really, she had some really beautiful stuff. Metals of the moment. It's all about gold, gold leaf, metal, or brass, unlacquered brass, aged brass, bright brass.
Gold. Anything yellow, shiny.
Yep.
And interestingly, a lot of the copper that we saw briefly kind of disappeared from the scene, which I wasn't unhappy to see it go. I'm just not a fan of copper.
Who knows, it might pop up. Or, this is a zinc draped table from Aiden Gray. The other thing is, look at this classic chair, but they put wire mesh as a seat in the back. So lots of ways of mixing materials, metals and woods, etc. And when you start putting brass and gold, embossed fronts on case goods, you know that it's definitely moving up the trend curve.
Absolutely, and a lot of detail and attention to these embossed, and a lot of use of German silver on cabinetry, and you know, covering the entire cabinet in that product.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of German. So this is the sprocket chandelier from Global Views, and yes, it is huge, huge, huge. But wow, wow, it makes a statement. It's pretty amazing. It's all these little like metal cut pieces that are put together.
It looked like an industrial piece, but we couldn't figure out what they were originally used for, and they just
nobody would tell us either.
Yeah.
You know, this is Bernhardt, and one of the reasons I put this picture in is that the other thing that's happening in seating is manufacturers are getting, you know, understanding that in smaller spaces, customers need to be multifunctional, and so swivel chairs are back.
Yeah, if it swivels, if it rocks, it reclines, it's selling right now.
So there's a lot of imaginative finishes that were delivered this market, and it's not just about wood grains or faux finishes, it's about what's happening with paint, striated. Look at this carved and embossed way to open this chest. Sometimes it's lined or limed, it's subtle metallics, it's, you know, smoky finishes. Woods are lighting up so you can see the grains, it's exotic woods, it's mixing with brass, you name it. We saw lots of crazy wonderful finishes. This is parchment.
Bernhardt, yeah.
On which again, beautiful.
It was pig skin parchment.
Yep, pig skin parchment. This is one of my faves. This is a horn console from Theodore Alexander.
That was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
This is Century Furniture.
We've seen this cabinet now in all of its different incarnations, and now the color of the moment is this blue.
And then this is Ambella Home. Notice the chevron in this sort of limed, but it kind of has a pinky cast to it. But I want to also point out, notice the hardware and notice the leg.
And big hardware and lots of attention, and artistry in the hardware is everywhere.
You know, Global Views, they did a screen and they did this Art Deco mirror with these starburst inlays. You know, Caracol was doing agate veneers. This is Chagrin for Barry Dixon. This is Silver Leaf for Alden Parks. You know, brass, notice even down to the rustic barnwood sort of chippy paint kind of feel. It was all over the place. Part of that, not only finishes and hardware, but then the menswear is this whole horse country thing with, you know, buckles, bows, and buckles and bits and stuff with accessories. It just got to be more important than what we saw last market. And
yeah,
then,
we saw it trickling in, and now it was on everything.
Yeah, feathers and furs. This chick had some really
amazing
stuff. This is all faux fur, by the way, but you could not tell. I mean, she had some of the most amazing. She's in Wyoming, and she was showing at the Christopher Guy showroom, and our designers dropped a lot of money with her. But salon, inner hall, almost every building that had some sort of vendor was showing fur and faux fur and feathers. As you can see, here's some of this is laser cut fox, faux fox. This is a ruched fox. This has got some metallic foiling on it. I mean, there were just wonderful finishes to all these faux furs or feathers. These are dipped in gold. This is Dransfield and Ross. You know, this little chair was one of the hits for Cynthia Rowley.
I love that little chair because they put a back on it. I don't like the stools when they're fluffy because they're too slippery, but the back, you don't fall off. It was lovely.
I know. Isn't that great? And then, you know, here again, this is Meld. And as Jackie said, hardware, I know she was going around snapping all kinds of pictures of different types of hardware that are out there. It's pretty crazy what we were seeing in hardware this market. You know, long, overextended, almost feels like kitchen hardware or towel bars or whatever. Bling, you know, you name it, heavy statement pieces, you know, brass legs. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if we start seeing brass legs on furniture and replacing lucite. And then, you know, maybe it's without hardware at all. It's like, why, you have this is Ambella Home, and they're actually hardware-less drawers that open just with a touch, and but it's beautiful. He put it in, he put the glam into the structure.
Right. And I mean, everything's embellished, And one thing that good to take home is the thought that if your clients have pieces that are expensive and they want to repurpose them, now is the time to find some really fantastic hardware and update it and make it new. Take the legs off and put a lucite leg on, or a store-bought brass leg, something like that. So it's a great way to repurpose.
So that's our first take on market and what we saw. If there's anybody that has any questions, please type in. And
I have to say, in general, just looking at market in general, it was very robust, very crowded, so many new product launches and signature product launches, but just really energizing to see the amount of effort that all the vendors are putting into creating new product. There wasn't a vendor there that didn't have a substantial new offering at this market, don't you think, Deb?
Absolutely. So save the date if you'd like to come along with our VIP market experience. Pencil in April 15th to the 20th. Again, we'll be taking a group to market starting Friday, April 15th for 6 days, 5 nights. Truly a one-of-a-kind way to see market. We get you access where nobody else can. And our next Take 10 is our Fall Fabric Lookbook. It'll be November 20th, and we'll be showing you some of the new textile and fabric introductions that are coming out there. Vendors for hardware, are you looking specifically for hardware vendors, Kim? Because the hardware we were showing you are on case good manufacturers, so they're probably fabricating themselves, or they're purchasing from a supplier that wouldn't allow for a designer to purchase from them. So
that's a good topic that Deb and I will explore and maybe do a future Take 10 on. For you all is some hardware vendors. I have a few, I just don't know them off my head, but I have some good sources.
My suggestion is to start to go into some of the artisan sites that are in there. I mean, Etsy's the granddaddy, but there are some people that are doing artisan stuff that'll do hardware, or look at kitchen and bath and drawer hardware and door hardware and see what can be used. Rocky Mountain Hardware comes to mind. They do some really interesting stuff.
And check out Steel Yard, which is used to be Total, which is now Steel Yard.
Yep.
And they have a great, resource library of manufacturers, and I'm sure they have a considerable, amount that do hardware. Also, House. I would take a look on House as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, everybody, thanks so much, and happy Friday. Have a great weekend. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye, Jackie.
Bye-bye.